FP1, FP2 Australian Grand Prix is here. And before I continue, let me bore you with some news. A lot of things have been going on in the background, a whole lot. With FIA clearing the FIA chairman, Ben Sulayem, of the accusations against him in Jeddah last year and also about Las Vegas track. He has been cleared. We keep wondering what is happening. They will just come out with something. There is no transparency. They cannot tell us what is really going on. And I think when the sport lacks transparency and sustainability due to ability to see how the integral or roles are played, then integrity will be compromised. And I think this is what might be happening to F1 now. And I believe the FIA president should do more. Leadership is more than this, requires more than we are seeing. And I think it would be a shame at the end of the day. The whole world is seeing this, and with the Formula One culture has been able to embrace, or the new fans that have been able to embrace Formula One, people are still complaining about the dominance of Red Bull. Yeah, we had the dominance of Mercedes, the dominant seasons for Mercedes, but not as worse as this. We know that Mercedes are a part of their own calamity, but a lot of people have been complaining online that they can't wake up, especially for the Australian Grand Prix, to start listening to the Austrian anthem. That is not the issue. We need a lot of transparency. We need to know what is going on behind closed doors and the decisions that are made. Now, FIA said they've received the complaint about the Red Bull team principle, but there's nothing being done about it. But I think a lot of things are happening, and I think that is why Susie Wolf sued FIA in the French court, because last December there was a compliance issue against her and her family, and she's like, you guys are playing with my integrity. I will see to the end of this. You cannot just wake up one day and you put the integrity of somebody to test. On all media all over the world it is heard. Now you are saying there is nothing, and she wants to know who brought it up, what happened. And I think it is the right step taken by Mrs. Susie Wolf, and I think I back it up, and I think we need to stand up. This is a social media age. We need to stand up for the right thing and start seeing the right thing. I believe things will work, but transparency is needed. You need to know what is going on in FIA so that they won't politicize this whole thing, because this is getting politicized, and that is the same thing we are having in Nigeria here. And I think when all these things are opened up and people are able to deal with it, there will be less issues, there will be less catastrophe in FIA. Lewis Hamilton has backed Madam Susie Wolf up that yes, because the male dominant sport and her voice needs to be heard, and she needs to know. And I like what Lewis Hamilton said, backing her up and giving her morale. And when Lewis Hamilton was asked about the FIA chairman backing him up, he said that he has never backed him up. Lewis Hamilton does not mince his words. He does not hide his words. Said the FIA chairman has never backed him up, and he never expected that. That is a strong statement from Lewis Hamilton, a strong word from him, and a strong statement leading into Australian Grand Prix. And I think there's a lot FIA needs to do to bring transparency and truth into the sport that we love, so that we don't start losing fans. You're gaining fans in F1, and at the same time you're trying to lose them due to irresponsibility. And I think there's a lot of things that need to be done on that. Also, Lewis Hamilton has said the W15 is a very good car, and they just need to get the best out of it. So a lot of teams brought the right rear wings for their car that will work for the medium speed corners on Albert Park, where the Australian Grand Prix is taking place. A lot of teams bring in some beats. Teams like Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin brought extra rear flap. The surprise is, if you watch my last video in which I talked about one of the things Mercedes needs to do, now I talk about the floor, and it is so damning to see that Mercedes, I didn't even notice, I didn't hear about it, that Mercedes changed their floor coming into the first and second race of the season. The floor they used in testing is what they have gone back to. Now, looking at FP1, this car looks more balanced. There's no purpose in which I told you these ground effect cars are like the cars, the floor hugging the ground, and the Mercedes was performing below par in the first two races of the season. Now they have reverted back to, I think there's somebody in Mercedes advising them wrongly, and I think that person is distributing Igbo right in Mercedes for all of them to smoke, because it looks as if they're getting it wrong every time. Look at 2022 when they introduced the W13. They introduced a different car to us, brought a different car to testing, and everybody was like, wait, hold on a minute, what is this? Now that same car performed woefully. Mercedes did not change it. They didn't go back to what they originally brought so that they can learn from the W14. They said they've learned from Lewis Hamilton helping them learn in 2022, so 2023 is going to be a better year for them. It was woeful because they brought a worst car. The car they brought in 2023 was worst. Now they changed the philosophy for the middle of the year. Monaco, they changed the philosophy. Now we thought they would bring a better car from what they have learned. They brought a mild car, but they now decided to tweak that car again after testing. What is wrong with these guys? So now with the two floors they are trying to learn. From FP1 I could see that floor is performing. They just need to do a better floor, add some tweaks to it, underneath and over, to make the floor better. What is wrong with those people? Whoever is serving them the wrong Igbo should please stop. Whoever is putting Igbo in the teas of those that are controlling Mercedes should please stop. That person is affecting that team. Something's getting into their head, so they need to stop. This is getting serious, because I can't believe they know what they should be doing and they are doing it wrong. You have a new floor to test. You've tested one. You tested it in the first race. Now you've taken yourself back and you are trying to beat Red Bull in a season in which Red Bull are taking the goalpost away from where it was before. Mercedes, wake up, wake up. The FP1 was a nicer session. We saw the whole teams bunching up. The Visa Cash RB also in the mix. This is the first testing. A lot of people are testing new parts, and we saw Aston Martin coming up testing their new front wing, and they brought the aero rakes out. We saw a lot of testing, and it looks cool the way Lance Stroll is performing, which means the Aston Martin has a good performance in it. The McLaren has a good performance here, but we don't know where the mix. By FP2 we should be able to know where we are, but these cars look genuinely performing, especially the McLaren and the Aston Martin here. But by FP2 we should know more. Then the FP1 was altered by Alex Albon. He ran into the wall 90 minutes to the end of the FP1, but it was taken out. We hope the car will be able to be rounded up before the end of FP2, so he can run and get some lap into his mind and into his car for him to learn the track. The track is windy, especially in turn 6, 9, 10, tipping a lot of drivers off. All the drivers had the wind issue all through their fast laps, but I think by the FP2 we should have a better track. If this condition should be better, and let's see what happens. Lando Norris took FP1 with Max Verstappen closely behind him and George Russell nicking into it. All of them separated by 10th of a second, and it looks nice looking at what is going on and the possibility of what is to come in FP2. Let's stand right for FP2 and see what will happen. Thank you guys. In the FP2, it really shows the Mercedes are really struggling with their rear. Now, I thought they would be coming with a fix for the rear, for the Albert Park. They had another plan, they brought the floor, and I think they need a lot of setup changes. Some of the changes they have on Russell is working, but on Hamilton, they've been experimenting a lot of things and it's not really working. In FP3 and qualifying, I think they would come up with a solution to that, except they will keep experimenting, because sometimes they experiment too much. On turn 1, Mercedes are the only car that I can see on that grid that their rear axle is not gripping to the track. The Mercedes is just everywhere on the rear. On that turn 1, they are just everywhere. That left Lewis Hamilton's car damaged in FP2. For like 30 minutes it was repaired before he went back and he could not get reliable lap times. Likewise, Max Verstappen had to spend about 30 minutes in the garage before he could come out to set some reasonable time, see how his car is performing. Alex Albon could not come out because they are still looking for a way to repair the chassis. From what we are looking at, they don't have extra chassis or extra bit of whatever they can use to repair the car, so they are thinking of how to manage what they have and repair the Williams of Alex Albon. So if they can repair it, the car will come up, but if they are unable to repair it, they will need to choose if Logan Sargent will drive or Alex Albon will drive Logan Sargent's car for the race and for the remainder of the Grand Prix. A lot of drivers are having overstay, a lot of overstay, especially the crosswind coming in, pushing the drivers off the track. That one is not a setup, that is a weight issue, and I think it has been stipulated the weight they can come with, so nobody can change that. The cars are doing great except for the Mercedes, and I think from where they are now, they should see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and if they are not seeing the light, they should buy bulb or get a generator or install solar panel, which might work for them, because this is getting messier for them. The Aston Martin came up with their job to really put some good lap times and decent times in after testing their front wings and some other little bits they brought, and it shows that the Aston Martin is performing well, though we know they've traded their long run pace for a single lap pace, and they are working on upgrades to bring a balance to that. The Ferrari did a good job. They are really firing on all cylinders. Charles Leclerc is just on the game, putting the Red Bull under pressure to make sure they set decent times and tell everybody they are not here to play. Like Fred Vasseur said during the week, he said if they have an opportunity to go for the race and win, they will go for it, and I think that is where they are now. With the little bits they've brought, they are looking at putting Max Verstappen and the Red Bull under pressure, in which I've always said, put them under pressure, let's see where they are. Can put them under pressure, they will shake. So they are trying to put them under pressure. And for the McLaren, they are doing a decent job. But I think as time goes on, the McLaren will still bring up this issue of VCAB, RB, and Red Bull team, because the VCAB is looking like a fast car and looking like a good, decent paced car. So if this continues, some other team principals too might join, and it might be another big issue for the Red Bull team, because their sister team are taking almost everything on the RB19 and the car is working fine. So there might be issues coming up with these two teams. But from what we see, Charles Leclerc taking P1 in FP2, Max Verstappen closely looking for space around him with about 3.5 tenths away from him, and his teammate Carlos Sainz right behind him, and the two Aston Martins putting their speed into segments around the top guys. But Lewis Hamilton could not get a decent time on board. That is where we are. On to the FP3 qualifying tomorrow. You have a lot to see here, and I think it's going to be an interesting race. Thank you guys. I love you. Bye.